Okay, Dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope 2025 was good to you and 2026 will be even better. So what better way to start 2026 than understanding about Awakenings? I'm sure many of you have heard Awakenings will be coming to the game, but let me just stress again that there is at least 5 entire months till May 2026 before we get Awakenings. So yes, this video may seem a little early, but I felt the need to give you guys some peace of mind and mental preparation before it hits. Those of you who have not played Seven Knights 1 before should also not worry too much about it. This video will give you a basic idea of what Awakenings are, and also just a disclaimer, they may change the system for Rebirth, so I do not guarantee everything mentioned in this video will be carried over in totality. So here's what we'll be covering in this video. How do we awaken heroes? What is the awakening system about? Which heroes could get very good awakenings, and what are the potential problems with hero awakenings, my personal hopes for awakenings, and how you can prepare for them. So how can you awaken heroes? If they are doing it the same way, then we can expect a few requirements. First, your hero must be level 30 and plus 5. Many Rebirth players fear that awakening will require heroes to be of a certain transcendence level. To be honest, I cannot say for sure. It may or may not happen, but I can say for sure the requirement will not be a T12 unit, okay? That is absolutely insane and they can just close the game if they do that. Secondly, there will be a new material called Awakening Shards introduced. So for normal heroes, in the last Seven Knights 1 game, 300 shards and some gold were needed to awaken them. In Rebirth, these will be considered your rare heroes. For legendary heroes, not legendary plus, 400 shards should be needed, and then for legendary plus and maybe plus 500 shards. So of course this amount may change depending on the developers themselves, but the main idea is different tier of heroes will cost different amounts of awakening shards to awaken. We don't know how easy it could be to get awakening shards as well, so it could be a very low amount but also pretty challenging to get awakening shards. That could be one way they may try to do it, or they can just do it similarly to how inner sparks are given to players, whereby you can just farm a certain dungeon and you basically just collect shards every day until you get a certain amount needed. Previously in Seven Knights 1, we could get awakening shards from daily quests, and some shops like the Guild War and Topaz shops as well sold them. Daily dungeons, or rather power-up dungeons, also gave awakening shards. Yes, so you get awakening shards through daily dungeon. Also from the Topaz shop, as you can see. You can also get them from the Guild Market. But seeing how we just expanded power-up dungeons and also included a new currency or material with it, I'm not sure if Rebirth will follow the same route. But anyway, that's 5 to 6 months later. And in the past, you could usually get about 150 awakening shards per week for free. So for free-to-play players, during the beginning of the awakening era, you will find it tricky to keep up for sure. And you will have to prioritize who to awaken first. Hopefully there will be many events giving out awakening shards for free over time, so the player gap would not expand too much. Could there be more requirements? Certainly so, but because this is such a core hero growth system in Seven Knights, I would actually be shocked if they made it too difficult, seeing how Seven Knights Rebirth was really meant to bring back familiarity and capitalize on the nostalgia. So what is the awakening system about, and what can you expect from it? Basically, it increases your hero's stats and skill multipliers. More importantly, it increases a hero's speed. So this is quite a big thing because it naturally gives and in a way forces players to use awakened heroes in speed comps for PvP, creating a more diverse PvP environment, but also a more challenging one as well. So this will definitely need to be balanced well. And other than stats, skills can change as well. AoE during but for his passive he gains chain effect. The chain effect actually still keeps the signature every third attack deals damage. Then he also has damage transfer. You also get new animations for skills. I'm not too sure if they're gonna do that for this particular game, but in the previous game, every time a hero awakens, they also get different skill animations and also get different poses. Dellons, when he awakened, had various buffs added to his passive, including a self-applied reflect immunity. Reflect was particularly big in Korea server back then, so I guess this would really have to depend on what meta we have 5 months from now. It could also most likely increase the level limit to level 40, but more importantly, it previously unlocked the ability for level 40 Awaken heroes to be enhanced to plus 10. So those of you who have been asking me, what should I do with all my excess 6-star heroes after countless fusions? This is where you'll be spending them, because using spare 6-star heroes to power up 6-star Awaken heroes will become the most cost efficient process. So keep hoarding your 6-star heroes for now. From what I know, there is a chance to fail your enhancement, your hero enhancement, if you do not use 6-star heroes. Basically, if you use a hero with lower rarity, there is a chance-based enhancement involved, whereby the enhancement can actually fall back to plus 5. So I'm not too sure if this is going to be carried over as well. So that's why players in the past use 6-star heroes to ensure that their enhancement is successful. Awakening also introduces a new battle mechanic called the Awakening Gauge and a third skill, the Awakening Skill. So typical Awakening gauges are a 10 bar gauge, and it has to be charged before the Awakening skill appears as a usable skill. So there are some ways the gauge can be charged. When it reaches the hero's turn, you get 3 bars. Skill usage will also increase the gauge by 3. Basic attacks increase the gauge by 1. Getting hit by the enemy will also increase the hero's gauge by 1. Take note that multi-hit skills only contribute 1 gauge to the Awakening gauge regardless of the number of hits. Now, because the battle system in 7X Rebirth is slightly more turn-based and structured than before, I foresee that they will adjust how an Awakening gauge is filled up. Previously, there were way lesser basic attacks and counter attacks, and something also called speed attacks that influence the hero's turn count. But in 7X Rebirth, they have made it more streamlined and structured, so there's a possibility that how an Awakening gauge will be charged could be simplified. Each Awakening skill can also only be used once per battle, so what is this implication on PvP and PvE? Well, in PvP, when an Awakening skill is ready, the AI will prioritize it, which will mean timing is key in future, and it will become more strategic as in terms of planning your skill queue, your hero's speed stat, so that they can charge their Awakening gauges faster to turn the tide of the battle, or actually try to delay the charging of their Awakening gauges so that when they use the Awakening gauge in the later part of the match, that could actually have more impact. And then in PvE, using your Awakening skill at the right timing will also be critical in your scoring, especially since there is a very limited turn duration now in most competitive PvE modes, such as Castle Rush and Event Expedition. The current skill patterns you are using will eventually have to accommodate for Awakening skills as well. On that note, some Awakening skills may not always be actual skills, but can also be passive effects that are activated once the gauge is charged, and your entire team benefits from that for the rest of the battle. So heroes with in-battle Awaken passives tend to be PvE heroes, offering more stat buffs to your team. And there will also be heroes that can reset their Awaken skill, so you can actually use it continuously again and again, and these are likely to be your PvE damage dealers. Sometimes event accessories may also have the effect to allow you to reset your Awaken skill. Some very notable and interesting Awakening skills pre and post reboot that I like to share because they brought in some new mechanics would include Chris, where he could revive every dead ally with immortality, similar to what T6 Rosie does, but back then Rosie didn't exist yet, so this was actually super powerful. Especially if you use this in a PvE context, bringing everyone back to life to ensure that you have a full team at the end is very critical. For Rudy's Awakening skill, he inflicted fixed damage on all enemies and also reduced the enemy's Awakening gauges by 100%. And increase their skill cooldown. So this made him very insane for tank comps, since tank comps are all about buying time, but who knows if they will give this to him again. Rachel got a very good Awakening passive, which boosted crit damage and overall damage for all allies. Her exclusive item also included the effect to boost weakness hit damage, which is actually something our current physical team lacks. I think if Rachel gets an Awakening, we could see this being her Awaken passive effect. The problem is when Rachel dies, the effect disappears because the Awakening gauge cuts by half whenever a hero revives. So you actually have to charge it up again, which will take time, and sometimes you really just don't have the luxury of time, so you have to make sure that Rachel, or rather an Awakened Rachel, will survive throughout without dying. As for Jave, he also got an Awakening passive, but this was for himself, and he boosted his own 5-man AoE skill damage, and it was only a 5-bar Awakening gauge, so he got this super fast, which means if Jave awakens, getting this same effect, his skill damage is going to get boosted very quickly in the areas he is used in, and he could potentially change the tide of the battle very early on. I personally really liked Vanessa's one. She played with the idea of turning back time, so she could actually reset Awakening skills for all allies except herself, making her one of the most important heroes to have an Awakening for. And as you know, our Vanessa is already very specialized in having a lot of utility, so if they do give this to her, I'll be so happy because she will be a super good magic support unit. Kirill actually had very drastic changes for her Awakening skill. Before the reboot, she boosted damage output by 100% and also granted damage nullifications to all allies for 3 hits, super OP. But after the reboot, she no longer boosted damage but instead increased the enemy skill cooldown by 30 seconds, and she also gave all magic allies an effect called Agility, where only 1 hit out of any multi-hit attack will land. And then we have Bidam, who had an Awakening skill, which could reset in Korea server because he was actually designed to be a damage dealer, but in global, Bidam actually only got an Awaken passive, so once the gauge is charged, he will just start glowing, and basically that's all he got. So things can change between servers. So things actually changed between servers back then, so I'm not too sure which kind of Awakening skill or passive they will actually give Bidam. Then for Lina, she actually had the continuous healing effect applied via her Awakening skill, but since we have it on her regular skill now, I'm pretty sure her Awakening skill will be using other effects such as debuff removal, or maybe she could even increase allies' Awakening gauge by a certain amount, which I think will be insanely powerful. We also have Valika's Awakening skill, which was an active skill, but it also was a buff, and it buffed allies' all attack, but it was not by turns, but by a hit count of 10. So if a skill did 3 hits, then 7 hits would remain on the buff. Now any random follow-up attack in between or any basic attack would also consume the amount of hits from this buff. Because hit count wise, it could potentially last longer than a turn-based buff because you only limit your units to use 1 basic attack and 1 or 2 skills each time. And in that period, those attacks will be buffed considerably. Whereas for a turn-based one, unless it is long enough, it will actually end very soon and you have to apply the buff again. Then the last Awakening skill to mention was Soy. So Soy actually gave all allies damage nullification, and she could also reset all skill cooldowns for allies. This can come in very handy for very tough PvE content in future, maybe in your towers or maybe even in world raid in future. So just some things to keep in mind. There are other interesting Awakening skills as well, but definitely too many to list in this video. And other than Awakening skills, I believe exclusive items also came into the picture. These were unique additional pieces of gears that could only be equipped to Awaken heroes. The system may not be launched with Awakening, but likely could come within 1 to 2 months after. Awaken items work very differently for 7x1 Korea and global server. In 7x1 Korea, the effect of the exclusive item was a random pick from 3 options. So only option 3 contained a special effect for the use. Only option 3 contained a special effect for the specific hero. Option 1 and 2 only gave stats. So yes, those familiar with Epic 7 once again should understand that it's another gacha in this sense. Whereas in 7x1 Global, life was so good whereby simply leveling the hero up from level 40 to 44 will unlock all the effects on the exclusive item, which would already be equipped on the Awakened hero, so there was no RNG at all. So sadly for us, I think we will most likely get the Korea version, so just be mentally prepared. And lastly, hero typings may also change after they awaken. Some prominent ones were Ace and Lu Bu, who went from universal to physical attack type. Clemith went from being support to magic, but I think that was her mythical awakening and not her regular awakening. So what problems can we foresee with the awakening system? Naturally, awakening will affect the balance of the game, and awakened legendary hero could become stronger than an unawakened legendary hero. And likewise, an older awakened legendary hero could be easily replaced by a newer awakened legendary hero or legendary plus hero from the next update. And this happened very commonly for PvP meta heroes, but less for PvE, because awakened PvE heroes tend to be designed with a specific role in mind. It does, however, affect PvE damage dealers. A classic example was when Awakened Jupi actually overtook Shane as the best physical single target damage dealer until Shane herself was awakened and claimed back the title. This was the main controversy of awakening heroes in 7X Korea back then in the early stages. Well, on a more positive note, I think Rebirth has managed to introduce a lot of multi-team content, which was completely non-existent in 7x1, so maybe this issue won't be as big, except probably in Arena only. So what do I hope to see for Awakening? Of course, I hope that the game paces Awakenings properly and balances them decently with existing heroes. Hopefully we can get sufficient Awakening Shards easily in between updates, and the last thing they want to do is to piss people off with this because it is such a core aspect of the game. And we already have so many rare heroes that are useful in this game, so I'm also wondering if they will get better with Awakenings or be simply replaced, because a large number of them like Victoria, Lucy, Daisy, Charon all did not get Awakenings. So I would definitely love to see new Awakenings in Rebirth. That didn't happen. And what I do not expect is for them to use the same Awakening system as Seven Knights Idol Adventure, because in that game, Awakening is chance-based, and each time you fail to awaken your hero, there will be a gauge that increases slightly by a small percentage, so that your next attempt could be more successful. It was a very dumb system, and Awakening Shards were so limited to dungeon entries and dungeon clear level, difficulty level, so this widened the player gap considerably, right? And it was also a paid currency. And a lot of times Awakening Shards were lost to RNG for no reason. So please do not give us that. So what can you do to prepare for Awakenings at this point? Although for the most part it is too early to actually prepare material wise, what we already do know is that the first two heroes that will get their Awakenings are Dellons and Sylvester. So I think from now we can all start to keep their dupes and transcend them. Take note that even after Awakening, you can still transcend a hero, so don't worry about it. Dellons and Sylvester's Awakening would also mean some big things for attack and magic teams respectively, so heroes in those two teams should still be something you are working on in the meantime, if you're planning to look ahead to be at the meta when it hits. Of course, we can't say for sure which heroes will still be viable by then, and which heroes will be coming up in between, but at least you can set your eyes on potential heroes and wishlist them. Other than legendary heroes, rare heroes will also get Awakenings, and Helenia was teased to be getting one as well, as shown in a live stream. Evan and Karian should also be amongst the first few to get Awakened. Now you don't have to actually worry about L plus heroes like Teo awakening too soon, because major heroes will usually awaken on actual celebration updates such as the game anniversaries to actually generate hype. And back then in 7x1, Teo's awakening and mythical awakening only happen on the anniversary updates. Beyond that, it's actually quite hard to predict which hero will awaken in terms of the order of awakening, since the story is not the same and the meta is also not the same. And before I end, you guys may be wondering how strong could Dellons become. Well, Awaken Dellons had a very iconic mechanic where upon using his Awaken skill, he transforms into a Grim Reaper and every basic attack hits 3 targets. In the past, he also gained a counter attack ability, so it actually made him extremely crazy since he would hit 3 targets with every counter attack, and imagine having a death accessory on him. I mean, oh boy. Beyond that, I think his skills largely did the same things, where the 5-man AoE would silence, and the single target attack became a multi-hit single target attack with added buff duration reduction as well. So I hope this video was insightful in giving you more knowledge on Hero Awakening, and if you found it helpful, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Happy New Year once again, there's definitely big plans for 2026. Stay tuned for more videos, thank you so much and see you!